Radical, eh? Do you remember these things? CDs. I'll go one better. Do you remember sitting at your tape recorder, listening to the top 40, waiting to hit record on your favorite song and just praying that the DJ wasn't going to talk through it and ruin it? Those certainly were the days. Now, if you put those big hits then into motoring terms, I can tell you now you wouldn't have had one Chinese on your hit list. But times have certainly changed, and today it is the Chinese hits that keep on streaming in. Here's another. So let's start with the first impression, and there is nothing wrong judging this book by its cover, because it is a good one. That combination of sculptural elements and smooth curves. The futuristic and sleek face had a few passers-by ask me if it was an EV, and I can see why. A unique design element is the borderless grille, with the body coloring meshing with the piano black detailing, which also houses the fog lamps. And of course those super sleek LED headlights with that hard bonnet edge that links the front to rear light clusters, and giving the X55 a really strong profile that for me, I don't think is going to date in a hurry. It is also here in profile that you also appreciate the sloping roofline, emphasized with the only bit of chrome detailing. How far the Chinese have come from their bling bling days. Now of course wheel design has a big role to play stylistically. The 5 prominent blades finished in a dark grey on the 19-inch wheels do the business, and they tie in with the dark cladding on the wheel arches, and also important, the dark finish hides dirt really well. Another cool design touch is the split rear wing, and the LED lights housed to look like one continuous strip. Not only highlights the name, but links the front and rear from a styling perspective. But without a doubt, the standout feature are these concealed and integrated door handles. Now what you see on the outside is pulled through to the inside, and I think at this price point this is perhaps the most impressive component and element of the Beijing X55. This is where you live as the driver, and this of course is where you're going to feel really special, premium, and I still have no idea how they've got it right at this price point. The seats are impossible to ignore. Bespoke springs to mind. I love the oxblood finish, the stitching and the sports car inspired feeling that they give, but this is the only color on the top spec, and it certainly won't be for everyone's taste, especially when you try and pair it with some of the external color combos. I think offering the mid-spec gray would certainly broaden the appeal. But most importantly, these seats are super comfortable with 5 different firmness levels. They are electronically operated with memory function, and heating and cooling is standard. In the rear, the seats can recline, you have air vents and charging, but I think most impressive for me is just the rear space for passengers. There is plenty of headroom and legroom. This is a big seller. Again, some really cool design details. I love the shape of the door handle and how the armrest is shaped and integrated. This sculptured feel is then pulled through to the dash. Now, where most dashes are squared up these days, the sloping away here makes the cabin feel a lot more spacious and cockpit-like. The vents, however, are a little on the busy side for me, and I fear real dust collectors. The first-class feeling continues with the floating center armrest, which offers plenty of storage, and the piano black touches and the stylized gear shifter look the part. The center storage is also cooled. Yes, of course, connectivity is covered. It is hard to miss the 10.25-inch driver display and the 10-inch central infotainment LCD screen. But being an Apple guy, connectivity was a real hack, as it requires an app download to pair. But the integration of the screens I really like, and the quality of the rear view camera is good. Yes, there is also an impressive panoramic roof on the higher spec models, and the tailgate is electronically controlled. Look, nailing the looks is one thing, and it's probably the easier thing in the cauldron that is making a car. But the thing that really matters to me is the build quality and the drive. And that for me, I think, is where the Chinese in recent times have really made their biggest improvements. So when you do get into the X55, I want you to feel how solid the doors close and check out those panel gaps, because I think that really does tell you a lot about where a manufacturer is at in their car building process. Now, my biggest complaint and frustration with so many of these soft-road SUVs is that they're just overly firm. The sport in sports utility vehicle is meant to denote the lifestyle, not the actual drive. The sporty feel on a car is amazing if you do find that billiard table smooth piece of tarmac out there, but the reality is, come on, we live in South Africa. That is becoming less likely. So I really do like what BAIC have done with the X55 here, is they found that happy middle ground. It is comfortable, it is compliant with just a hint of sportiness. And most of the driving that we've been doing are on our rural country B roads, which are very bumpy. So it's been a really good test of the chassis and the setup. From a suspension perspective, you've got the usual suspects. You've got your independent McPherson's up front and independent multi-links doing the business at the rear. But I also want to talk about the steering. It actually does feel like this one is connected to the wheels. I know, crazy, but you don't get that with a lot of cars these days. So there is none of that vagueness around center where steering inputs result in no change in direction. And when you do make an input, I find that the feel of the steering is very responsive, but also very natural. Sometimes with the electronic steerings, they can be wooden, they can be weighted unnaturally. This for me has a very, very good and direct feel, which I like. In terms of engine, they've gone and kept it really simple. There is only one, a 1.5 litre turbo petrol, but the figures are actually really, really impressive. You've got 130 kilowatts and 305 Newton meters. It's a torque in particular that is a standout for me, because that is what's delivering the punchiness in this engine and makes it so drivable, especially when you do choose your driver mode and you put it into sport. It's really, really good. They've got it linked to their 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which is driving the front wheels. And I must tell you, being DCT, changes are seamless. You don't even know that they are happening. But I think the combination, this drivetrain, having that available torque means you really are going to struggle to catch this gearbox uncertain of where it needs to be. You can put it into eco mode and then you will feel a bit of turbo lag, especially when you are wanting to pull away or your in-gear acceleration. But for me, I've just had it in regular because I find that is the sweet spot in terms of delivering a good daily drive and obviously trying to help you return better fuel economy figures. And that is what I do want to touch on, because this isn't just a Chinese thing. All manufacturers that are using small capacity engines to move these really big SUVs are going to struggle to come anywhere near their claimed figures. Now, BAIC is saying 7.7 or 7.8 litres per 100, whatever it might be. I can tell you now, in a urban environment, driving this car every day, stop-start traffic, a bit of a highway, running around town, you are never going to see those figures, ever. And for us, with our driving from a filming perspective, we are stop, start, turn around, go back. And I'm not driving it aggressively or in a sporty manner, because that's not what this car is. And we've been returning figures of between like 11 and 12. What I do like with the onboard computer is that I can scroll through instant fuel consumption, since refueling, since start, since reset. So you've got all of these little things that you can monitor, and that then gives you a realistic outlook in terms of where you are. So when you're on the highway, I had it down into the mid 7s, no problem. I think from a daily driving perspective, expect to see 11.5 liters per 100. The drivetrain is really solid, and you can tell that they're confident in what they're delivering, because they've actually gone and added another 2-year 50,000 kilometer warranty on the drivetrain on top of the standard 5-year 150,000 kilometer warranty. So that's confidence right there. But let's talk about price, because that is impressive. Gee, that really is a lot of car for your money. I'm predicting some really challenging times, and I guess a real test of brand loyalty for those traditional car brands out there. You see, the Chinese aren't plagued by stock shortages or product delays. I mean, come on, who wants to wait like a minimum of 9 months for their car? And I think when you couple that with insanely aggressive pricing, good styling, and a genuinely well-built product, you'd be an ass not to at least be considering Chinese products. And this should definitely be on your hit list. Now look, it's going to be really interesting to see what BAIC brings to market next. I can tell you, if they could take the essence of the Beijing X55 and condense it into a smaller product, price say between 250 and 350,000 Rand, now that would be a chart topper.